In today's episode, I'm going to be diving into my experience and reasoning for designing my own magazines and skateboards for my creative brand, Forever Almighty. Both of these mediums are fundamental to my creative process and have given me a cool way to display my work. So let's begin with skateboarding. I've been skating for pretty much my entire life. Growing up, I would ride Walmart boards and eventually started buying boards from the shop. Over time, my skating progressed and I learned how things were made. Then I started designing my own skateboards. Owning my creativity is important to me, and I didn't want to depend on any company to represent what I stand for. I'd rather just create it myself. My first set of boards for Forever Almighty was centered around an unreleased collection from 2021 called Euphoria. The graphics or images that I created using my video synthesizer from some VHS footage that I shot. Then I made a video of me and my friend Jaden skating the boards around Atlanta. Over the next couple of years, I've made different boards from images that I've taken that I thought were interesting. Pretty much all of my skateboard graphics are centered around elements from my life, which makes it more personal for me. From my most recent board, I was inspired by the TV installation that I built in my studio. I love the way this graphic looks on the board, and I really like how each screen has a slightly different color rather than it all being the same. Life genuinely imitates art. Designing and making each board cost me about $72 with shipping and grip tape, and that's honestly about what it would cost me to get a board from the skate shop. I didn't want to promote anything outside of what I'm doing to make it, especially since I'm making cool commercials and videos while I'm skating. Taking this approach has eliminated the need for me to depend on a company to send me boards. Now let's talk about magazines. I really appreciate physical bodies of work. In a world where everything is almost all digital, I wanted to involve myself in arguably one of the best ways to display a creative portfolio. It adds a whole new layer of professionalism to whatever it is you're working on. I made my first magazine in 2022, and it was centered around all of the film photos and video stills that I've taken of celebrities and my friends over the course of 1 year. Here are some of the most notable moments from my first magazine. Fast forward a few months later, I started working on my Forever Almighty Spring 22 collection. During this season, I flew to LA to shoot with some of my friends for these shirts I designed. We went to Point Doom in Malibu, the Vasquez Rock Formation in Santa Clarita. I introduced my modded PSPs and CRT graphics for the first time. Once I got back to Atlanta, I had an idea to take non-Polaroids of 4 different people doing various things, and I asked them to give me a quote. This was cool because I was able to get more people involved in Forever Almighty. Lastly, I directed a commercial for these tank tops and sleeveless shirts that I made. My friend Rada took the photos, and I did the video. This concept was based on a scene from one of my favorite music videos, A$AP Rocky's Sundress. I enjoy working on stuff like this because it's cool to look back at each concept I shot and see where my mind was during that period of time. There's always a photo and video aspect to these collections. Later on that year, I started working on my Fall 22 collection.
How would you describe your album?
Man, I feel like it's a breath of fresh air, because for all the people that I've been around and all the experiences that I've been through, I've seen a lot more shit than a lot of people have seen. Man, I don't give a fuck about the industry, man. What you need to understand is, when I do this album, it's gonna be the realest shit you ever heard, because if I fucking brick, I can still eat. I can still make a way for my family. So when I go in and do my album, I'm gonna do it the way I fucking wanna do it, you know what I'm saying? And with the backing that I got, I don't think it's a way that I could really, I'm not gonna say it's not a way that I could fail, but hopefully with God's blessings, then I got The Rock on my side, and I got Chicago on my side. It shouldn't be no way for me to lose, really.
I designed a few shirts and hoodies, built a giant concrete style sculpture with the help of my friend Amira, and I directed another commercial at a studio that I interned at. Now this collection is when I first learned how to make TV installations, and I started to include them in my work. This magazine in particular highlights my creative process and various thoughts that I had about my work at the time. I always try to provide value in the work that I put out, and I definitely dropped some gems in this magazine. Fast forward about a year later, I began to put together my Fall 23 magazine. We went to Puerto Rico to film for some tank tops I designed, had a small skating section, got invited to display my wooden chair in a gallery, and lastly, I directed a campaign photo and video shoot. And Ryder did an amazing job on the photos. I had a lot of fun shooting with my girl and our friend. I get more creative with the concepts and approach with each magazine that I make. Now after that magazine was done, I directed a commercial for it. I used the front cover of the magazine for the posters, and my buddy Connor shot this video. This was our first project that we worked on together, and he did an amazing job. Definitely one of my favorite commercials that I've made for Forever Almighty. And this project changed the course of my filmmaking style and opened my eyes to the possibilities of what I can do with a cinema camera. Now as you can tell, I model and appear in almost all of my brand projects. This is for a few reasons. Number one, because I spend so much time behind the camera that I finally wanted to be seen in my projects. Two, not only does this showcase my creative portfolio, but it allows me to build a modeling portfolio as well. 3, I refuse to wait for a larger company or brand to recognize me for what I'm doing. I'd rather just make my own magazines and feature myself and people that I think are cool, rather than waiting to be noticed and sleeping on my potential. I have all the resources that I need to do this stuff myself, and I like being self-sufficient. Lastly, I want to be able to look back at my younger self as I get older, just to see what I was doing during a specific time period. I look at me making magazines as artists making albums, just a different medium for displaying our art. So yeah, that's pretty much why I designed and make my own magazines and skateboards for my brand, Forever Almighty. In a world where trends are fleeting, physical pieces like magazines and skateboards create a lasting impact, something people can hold, collect, and look back on. Magazines tell a story in a way that digital posts can't. They allow for deeper engagement rather than passive scrolling. The question that you should ask yourself is, how do you want your work to be remembered in 10 years? Will a TikTok post last as long as a magazine on someone's shelf? If Instagram or TikTok were to ever go down, I could still show people my creative direction on the projects I work on. These are great ways to pay homage to the people who came before me back in the day and had a similar approach to their work. Taking the time to design a magazine and skateboard shows the dedication and intent that I have with what I do. And even if I never made $1 from any of this stuff, I would still do it because I enjoy it and I feel like it gives me a purpose. I'm really big on making art that I want to see more of in the world, and every experience I have in life has an influence on my next body of work. As of today, I'm currently working on my Forever Almighty Studio zine, which is a collection of every photo I've taken around my studio, and Forever Almighty Spring 25, which will highlight all of the projects that I shot and directed for this season. So stay tuned for that. Hope you all found some value in this video. Thanks for watching till the end.